You're in a conversation, maybe it's a classroom, maybe you're, trying to order a coffee in a foreign country.
Or a big meeting at work, a really high-stakes one.
Exactly. And you understand everything perfectly. Your brain is it's firing on all cylinders, processing all the input.
You've got the perfect response queued up in your head.
Yes.
To order a coffee in a foreign
intelligent,
Or a big meeting at
grammatically
work.
complex
A really
response.
high-stakes
It's all
one.
there.
Exactly. And you
but it's in your
understand
native
everything.
language.
And then comes the
Perfectly.
cliff.
Your brain is
That moment
it's
you have to
firing on all
actually
cylinders, processing all the input.
You've got the perfect
You open your
response
mouth to
queued up
bridge
in your
that
head.
gap.
Yes.
To
To
order a
witty,
coffee, translate that
intelligent,
Or a big meeting at
grammatically
work.
complex
A really
response.
high-stakes
It's all
one.
there.
Exactly. And you
But it's in your
understand
native
everything.
It's not the
And then
monologue
comes
you
the
wrote in
cliff.
your head.
Your brain is
That moment
it's
you have to
firing on all
actually
cylinders,
speak.
processing
That's
all
the
the
word for it.
input.
You've got the perfect
You open your
response
mouth to
queued up
bridge
in
that
your head.
gap.
Yes.
To
To
order a
witty,
coffee, translate that
intelligent,
Or a big meeting at
grammatically
work.
It's the
complex
classic
Really
response.
high-stakes
It's all
one.
there.
Exactly.
And you
Between
understand
you
everything.
It's not the
And then
monologue
comes
you
the
have in
cliff.
your
Your
head.
brain is
And
just
what
it's
you
firing on all
actually
cylinders,
speak.
processing
That's
all
the
the
word for it.
input.
You've got the perfect
You open your
response
mouth to
queued up
bridge
in
that
your
gap.
head.
Yes.
To
To
order a
witty,
coffee, translate that
intelligent,
Or a big meeting at work.
grammatically
It's the
complex
classic
response. Understand it. It's not the
And then
monologue
comes
you
the
have in
cliff.
your head. Your brain is
That
just
moment
it's
you have to
firing on all
actually
cylinders,
You
processing all the
revert to
input.
You've got the perfect
You open your
response
mouth to
queued up
bridge
in
that
your
gap.
head.
Yes.
It's the
Witty,
intelligent,
Or a big meeting at
feel
work.
trapped inside your own head.
Yeah, you feel like your personality is
Understand
locked
it. It's
behind
not
a
the
wall because your speaking skills just can't keep up with your thinking skills.
Well, today, that is the exact frustration we are tackling head on. We are doing a deep dive into a method that promises to break that specific bottleneck.
Okay.
We're looking at a source from the channel English is Easy with Connor, and specifically a lesson he created called The Architecture of a Super Sentence.
I'm really glad we're covering this one.
Yeah.
Because this isn't your typical, repeat after me grammar drill you see everywhere.
No,
now.
it's not.
This is something different. It feels less like a classroom lesson and honestly more like a high-intensity interval training workout, but for your brain.
That's the perfect way to describe it, a workout. And that's what we're going to do today. We are going to deconstruct this 10-level exercise he's built.
10 levels.
10 levels. We are going to watch a single, tiny, 3-second sentence.
Okay.
And we're going to see it evolve step by step into this massive, complex paragraph that covers basically an entire life philosophy.
Wow.
And the goal here, he says, isn't just to memorize the final sentence. That's not the point.
Right.
It's to understand the muscle that's required to say it, the speaking muscle.
Muscle is absolutely the key word. And this is where his core philosophy comes in, the thing that, that really underpins this whole source, the idea of deep work. He operates on this premise that speaking ability doesn't improve by osmosis.
Osmosis, I like that.
Yeah, you don't just get fluent by listening to podcasts in the background while you do the dishes.
Uh-oh. That's my entire strategy, so that's bad news for me.
It's bad news for a lot of people. But the reality he presents is that speaking is a physical and a physiological act. It involves your breath, your tongue, your facial muscles.
And that's where the gym comes in.
That's the analogy. It's the gym.
Let's unpack that analogy before we even look at the first sentence. Because, when teachers compare learning to exercise, it can feel a little cliche.
It can. Practice makes perfect. But he gets really specific about the mechanics of it, which I think makes it powerful.
How so?
He compares spoken English directly to training your biceps at the gym. Think about it.
Okay.
You can read every book ever written about weightlifting. You can watch 1,000 videos.
Oh.
You can understand the biomechanics of a bicep curl. You can name every single muscle fiber.
Right. I could be the world's leading academic on biceps.
Exactly. But if you never actually go to the gym, pick up a dumbbell and lift it until your arm shakes,
The muscle doesn't grow.
the muscle does not grow. It's impossible.
So in this analogy, the book learning, the theory, that's the grammar study, and the vocabulary list we all do.
Precisely. We know the rules.
Yeah.
But the lifting, the actual physical act, that is the speaking.
And what he's arguing is that most people just keep reading the book, hoping their biceps will magically get bigger.
That's it. The source argues that spoken English is a muscle that absolutely requires tension to grow. Resistance. If you aren't feeling that resistance, if you aren't struggling a little bit to get the words out, you aren't actually training.
You're just reviewing.
You're just reviewing. You're staying in your comfort zone.
Okay, so if speaking is the dumbbell, what's the specific exercise? He prescribes a very specific one called shadowing. Now, I've heard this term thrown around in language circles for years,
Oh, yeah.
but I feel like a lot of people get it wrong. What's his definition of it?
It's a very, let's say, aggressive form of shadowing. A lot of the time, people think shadowing means, you listen to a sentence, you pause on the audio, and then you politely repeat it back at your own comfortable pace.
Right. That's what I thought it
I
was.
says, that's not shadowing. That's dictation. It's a memory exercise.
So what's the real deal? What's the deep work version?
Real shadowing, the kind that actually builds muscle, means you are speaking with the instructor at the same time.
At the same time, how is that even possible?
You try to stay just a split second behind them. Or you pause and you immediately explode into the sentence, trying to match the exact rhythm, the exact intonation, the speed, the pauses, everything.
So you aren't just copying the words.
No, you are copying the music of the sentence, the melody.
You're trying to inhabit the speaker's mouth, essentially, their breath.
In a way, yes. And it is deeply uncomfortable. It feels rushed. You will absolutely trip over your tongue. You feel foolish.
I can imagine.
But the source insists, and this is so important, that this wobble, that feeling of almost failing, of being on the edge of your ability,
That's where the learning is happening.
that is exactly where the growth happens. Just like the shake in your arm when you're lifting that last rep.
Embrace the wobble. I like that. It gives you permission to be imperfect.
It demands it.
Okay, let's put on our gym clothes then. We're going to simulate this progression. We're going to walk through all 10 levels. We are starting at level 1. This is the seat. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's lift.
Level 1, it is, a man opens a bank account.
6 words. Simple. Clean. Unadorned.
It feels almost insultingly simple after that big setup, doesn't it? A man opens a bank account.
Don't underestimate it. Look at the architecture of it, as he says.
Okay.
You have the subject, an adult male, a man.
Right.
You have the action. What does he do? He opens.
Verb.
And you have the object. What does he open? A bank account. It is the fundamental building block of the English language.
Yeah.
Subject, verb, object.
SVO. It's the safety net.
Great.
It's what every beginner learner clings to because it's predictable.
It's safe, sure, but it's also robotic. As you said, it's the toddler stage.
Yeah.
If I walked up to you at a party and just said, a man opens a bank account, and then just stared at you.
I would assume you were a strangely programmed AI, and I would slowly back away.
Right. It lacks all humanity. It's a statement of fact with no context, no purpose.
But to be fair, narratively, even in these 6 simple words, a story has begun.
It has. We have a character. We have an action. He's taking a step,
Yeah.
a financial one.
He's moving from, I don't know, chaos to order. He's starting some kind of journey.
True. But as you said, nobody actually speaks like this.
Yeah.
Human communication is driven by intent, by purpose. We don't just describe what is happening. We explain why it's happening.
Which brings us directly to level 2. We add the purpose. The sentence evolves into, a man opens a bank account to save money.
And boom, instantly it's 100 times more human.
Why? What's the linguistic shift here?
We've added what's called an infinitive of purpose to save money.
The why.
The why, exactly. And the source points out that this is the first crucial stretch for the brain. It's a small one, but it's important.
Is to save money the only way to say that?
No, and he gives variations. You could say, in order to save money, which is a bit more formal, or something more casual, like to save up some money.
But the core function is the same.
The function is identical. You are connecting an action opening the account to a motivation, a reason.
It feels like such a small step, but I guess cognitively it forces your brain to hold 2 distinct concepts at once.
It does. You've got the event itself, and now you've got the reason for the event. You're moving from just reporting what you see to explaining intent. That requires a higher level of cognitive processing.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's be honest, to save money is still pretty vague.
Extremely vague. Is he saving for a new pencil? Is he saving for a private jet? Is he just saving because he likes the feeling of having coins in a jar? We have no idea.
The motivation is there, but the scale is missing, the timeline.
We need the horizon.
Which brings us to level 3. A man opens a bank account to save money for his future.
For his future. Okay, now the narrative weight of this sentence has, I'd say, tripled.
It's just 3 words. For his future. Why does it add so much weight?
Because it introduces a profound psychological concept. The source touches on this, and it's the idea of the future self.
Oh, I love that. Tell me more.
Saving money, fundamentally, is a negotiation. It's a conversation between your present self and your future self.
The idea that there's a version of you 10, 20 years from now who is either going to be really grateful for the choices you made today.
Or really, really mad at you.
Right. Why did you buy so many expensive coffees? Pass me.
Precisely. So by adding for his future, this sentence stops being about a simple transaction. It becomes a fundamental choice.
A choice between what?
Between instant gratification and delayed gratification. The man could spend that money today. He could get pizza, go to the movies, buy a new shirt. Pleasure now.
But he chooses not to.
He chooses to sacrifice that small pleasure now so that his future self can have something much bigger. Security, stability, options.
So you're saying it turns a simple banking errand into a life strategy.
Absolutely. It's a statement of values.
And
And rhythmically, think about what it does to the sentence when you speak it.
how so?
At level 2,
Yeah.
you could say, to save money, and just let your voice drop. The thought is complete, but now it has a tail. To save money for his future. You have to sustain the breath, sustain the thought, carry it through to the end.
It's a longer mental journey as well as a vocal one.
Exactly.
We're still in the warm-up zone, though. I think most intermediate learners could probably handle level 3 without breaking too much of a sweat.
I agree. It's a comfortable lift.
Hmm.
But level 4 is where we see the first real structural pivot. This is where the sentence decides it's not just going to walk in a nice straight line anymore.
Okay, level 4 is, a man opens a bank account to save money for his future and plans to invest.
Ah, the dreaded and.
It seems so innocent, doesn't it? Just 3 letters. A-N-D.
But and is a heavy lifter in grammar. It's a coordinating conjunction that changes the whole structure. Here, it creates what's called a compound predicate.
Meaning the man is doing 2 things.
2 distinct things, yes. Before, he was just opening an account. Now, action 1 is opening the account. And action 2 is that he plans to invest. The sentence now has 2 main verbs connected to the subject.
Which is another cognitive load. You have to track both options.
You do. And the source actually stops here to define investing, which I thought was a really smart move because it's a word people use loosely.
Right. How does he define it?
He uses a very organic, very simple analogy. He compares it to gardening.
Gardening.
He says saving money is like putting seeds in a jar and storing them in your cupboard. They're safe, they're there, but they don't do anything. They don't grow.
And investing.
Investing is taking those seeds, planting them in good soil, watering them, and watching them multiply. One seed becomes a plant with 100 seeds.
So our man isn't just a passive saver. He's not just stuffing cash under a mattress. He's proactive. He wants growth.
He wants his money to work for him while he's sleeping.
Oh.
But notice, at level 4, that phrase, plans to invest, is just, it's hanging there.
What do you mean?
It's transitive in concept, but it lacks an object.
Yeah.
Invest. In what?
Ah. He could be investing in crypto or Beanie Babies or, I don't know, vintage comic books.
Exactly. The sentence is still in a contemplative phase. It's an idea, not a plan. We need level 5 to ground it in reality.
Okay, level 5. A man opens a bank account to save money for his future and plans to invest in the stock market.
Now we have specificity. We have the how.
In the stock market. You know, the source mentions that for language learners, specificity is often harder and more intimidating than generalization. Why do you think that is? I would have thought it's easier to just name the specific thing.
It's about cognitive risk. It requires precise vocabulary recall under the pressure of a conversation. If you just say invest, you're safe. Everyone knows that word. You can't really be wrong.
It's a general safe bucket.
Right. But if you commit to saying in the stock market or in mutual funds or in real estate, you run the risk of picking the wrong word. Or, just as scary, mispronouncing a complex term.
So it increases the speaker's anxiety.
Massively. Yeah. And that anxiety can lead to that freeze we talked about at the beginning. So level 5 forces you to push past that. It forces you to commit to a specific image.
And the picture is getting clearer now. We can see this guy. He's not just a saver. He's an investor. He's probably looking at graphs on his computer. He's serious.
And structurally, just look at the length of the sentence now. A man opens a bank account to save money for his future and plans to invest in the stock market.
It's a solid sentence.
It's a full, robust thought. In a normal conversation, you could absolutely stop there and feel like you said something intelligent and complete.
But we are not normal, and we are not stopping.
We are not.
Because this is where the super sentence starts to really earn its name. We are now entering the zone that the source colorfully calls the mouthful.
I love that description, the mouthful. It immediately implies a physical challenge, not just a mental one.
It really does. Okay, here is level 6. A man opens a bank account to save money for his future and plans to invest in the stock market to grow his wealth.
Okay, so we've circled back to another why, another purpose clause.
But wait a minute, didn't we already have a why back in level 2 to save money?
We did, and this is where the mental gymnastics really begin. This is a crucial step up in complexity.
Explain that.
You now have to hold 2 different cause and effect relationships in your head at the same time. You have the why for the bank account, which is to save money, And now you have the why for the investment, which is to grow his wealth.
So you have to keep those two logical tracks separate, but also connected in the same single breath.
Exactly. The bank account serves the purpose of saving. The investing serves the purpose of growth. They are related but distinct goals.
And wealth is a heavy word, too. It feels different from just money.
It is. The source notes that wealth implies accumulation over time. Money is what you use day to day to buy milk and bread. Wealth is what you build to change your life, to create freedom.
So growing his wealth implies he wants to move up a level. He's not just surviving, he wants abundance.
Right. And physically, as the name The Mouthful suggests, it's getting harder to say this, isn't it?
Yeah, if I were shadowing this, my instinct would be to take a breath after stock market.
And if you do that,
The sentence sounds disjointed, it sounds choppy, it breaks the flow of the idea.
that's the mouthful aspect. You have to train your diaphragm, your breath support, to carry you through the whole arc of the thought. If you chop it up, a man opens a bank account to save money.
You sound hesitant. You sound unsure.
To sound fluent, you have to glide through it. It has to sound like one single idea.
One single, albeit complex, idea.
Okay, level 7. This one involves my favorite vocabulary edition of the entire exercise. This is where the sentence, it puts on a suit and tie, it gets serious.
Let's hear it.
Level 7. A man opens a bank account to save money for his future and plans to invest in the stock market to grow his wealth and achieve financial stability.
Achieve financial stability. Wow, that is a power phrase.
There is so much to unpack here. First off, let's talk about the word stability. The source really dives deep into this one. He uses such great, simple visual analogies. He says stability is like a table with 4 strong legs that doesn't rock, or a glass of water that sits perfectly still on a desk. It's solid. It's dependable.
So financial stability is having a bank account that doesn't wobble.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
It means your life doesn't wobble. The source contrasts it with the worry factor.
The worry factor.
Yeah. If you are constantly wondering where the money for next month's rent is coming from, if you are stressed every time you go to the grocery store, your situation is unstable. It wobbles. Financial stability is the absence of that wobble. It's peace of mind.
And this leads to that fantastic big word that the source introduces, a word that I think a lot of learners might be scared of: precarious.
Yes, precarious. It's such a good word. And as the source says, it's a word that will genuinely impress native speakers if you use it correctly.
So how does he define it? Let's break it down.
He defines it as a risky, uncertain, or dangerous situation. The image he evokes is of standing on the very edge of a cliff in a high wind. That feeling of being off balance where one wrong move could be disastrous. That is a precarious position.
So if you say, my financial situation is a bit precarious right now.
You are saying you are on that cliff edge. One bad breeze, one unexpected car repair, one medical bill, and you could fall.
It sounds so much more sophisticated than just saying, I'm broke or I'm worried about money.
It signals a higher level of understanding. You aren't just complaining about a lack of money. You are analyzing the structural risk in your life.
And our man in the sentence wants to avoid that position at all costs. He wants to achieve stability.
Achieve is an active verb too. You notice that. You don't just get stability or find it. You achieve it.
It's earned.
Right. The source compares it to his goal of gaining 25,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. It's a milestone. It's a goal you reach through sustained effort and hard work.
So now let's look at the sentence's logic. Our man has a double objective for his investing.
He does. He wants to grow wealth, which is
Yeah.
like playing offense in a sport. You're trying to score points to move forward,
And he wants to achieve stability.
which is the defense. You're building a strong foundation so you don't lose the game.
Offense and defense. That is a lot to hold in your head while you're simultaneously trying to remember if the correct preposition is in the stock market or on the stock market.
And that's the point, that cognitive friction. That's where the learning happens. You are forcing your brain to automate the simple stuff, the grammar, so that it can free up processing power to focus on the complex logic of the sentence.
Okay, I think we all need to take a deep breath here because level 8 is where the sentence throws us a massive curveball, a huge one.
Oh.
We aren't just adding on to the end in a nice, neat straight line anymore. We are splitting the timeline. We're going multi-track.
Okay, lay it on me.
Level 8. A man opens a bank account to save money for his future and plans to invest in the stock market to grow his wealth and achieve financial stability while also setting aside funds for emergencies.
While all
Those two words.
those 2 words changed the entire game.
Why are they so significant?
Because up until this very point, everything in the sentence was sequential. First he does A, then he does B in order to get C. It's a linear progression. While also introduces simultaneity.
Like doing two things at once.
It's the linguistic equivalent of patting your head and rubbing your tummy at the same time. It's hard.
So he isn't just focusing on the future goal of investing. At the exact same time, in parallel, he's doing something else.
Right. He is setting aside funds. It requires a parallel processing capability in your brain as you're speaking. You have to sort of suspend the first long part of the sentence, the whole investing track, while you construct this new second part, the emergency track. And you have to do it without losing the rhythm or the connection.
It's a major step up in grammatical complexity.
Huge.
Let's talk about the vocabulary in this new section. Funds and setting aside.
Setting aside is a crucial phrasal verb, especially for business or just adult life in general. It means to segregate, to put money over here in a special place so it won't be accidentally spent.
You're creating a protected bucket of money.
Exactly. And funds is just a slightly more formal word for money that is dedicated to a specific purpose. You might have a travel fund, or a new car fund, or a school supplies fund for your kids.
And in this case, our man is creating the most important fund of all, the emergency fund.
The rainy day fund.
And the source gets very graphic and specific about what constitutes an emergency. It's not, I need a new video game.
Not at all. He lists the things that we all live in quiet dread of. Lightning striking the roof of your house, hitting a nail while you're driving your car.
The flat tire. I remember he talks about the tire deflating, that horrible sinking feeling.
Right, the air just rushing out. Or a more personal one. You're walking down the street, you trip, and you break your ankle. These are the unexpected, expensive curveballs that life throws at all of us.
And the concept here is prepping. He's getting ready for the bad stuff.
He's prepping for disaster. He uses that common phrase, knock on wood.
Which is a superstition, right? You tap a wooden table to ward off bad luck after saying something you don't want to happen.
It is. But the crucial point the source makes is that this man isn't just relying on knocking on wood. He isn't relying on luck or superstition. He is relying on a plan. He is relying on his funds.
I think this is the point in the sentence where the character of the man becomes really admirable.
How so?
He's not just an optimist dreaming about the stock market going up. He's also a realist who knows that one day the roof is probably going to leak.
It's a comprehensive financial strategy. He's balancing growth with protection.
Yeah.
And linguistically, the sentence itself is now doing that. It's holding those two balanced ideas.
We have the future growth track and we have the present protection track.
And they are connected by that incredible pivot point, while also...
It just keeps going, level nodding. We're adding even more to that protection track. Are you ready?
I'm strapped in.
A man opens a bank account to save money for his future and plans to invest in the stock market to grow his wealth and achieve financial stability, while also setting aside funds for emergencies and major life events.
And major life events. Okay, so this broadens the scope of the protection plan again.
Right. It's not just for negative surprises anymore. What counts as a major life event?
Well, the source defines these as the big milestones in life. They can be incredibly happy events like planning and paying for a wedding.
Which is very expensive.
Very expensive. Or they can be sad and unexpected events like a funeral for a loved one. But they are all significant markers in the journey of a life.
Milestones. That's a really good word for them.
It is. And narratively, just step back for a second and look at what this single sentence now covers.
There's a lot.
It covers the distant future. It covers wealth growth. It covers achieving a stable state of being. It covers immediate sudden emergencies. And it covers major, planned, or unplanned emotional events.
It's a comprehensive life plan compressed into one single grammatical structure.
That's a perfect summary. It's incredible.
The sentence itself has grown up. It started as a simple transaction, and now it has a mortgage, a family, and a retirement plan.
But we aren't done. We have one final level, the masterpiece, the grand finale, level 10.
This is the final stretch. This is where, to use the gym analogy, you're lifting the heaviest weight you've ever tried. This is what separates the casual learners from the masters.
Okay, I think I'm ready.
All right, here is the full monstrosity of level 10. Just listen to the whole thing. A man opens a bank account to save money for his future and plans to invest in the stock market to grow his wealth and achieve financial stability, while also setting aside funds for emergencies and major life events such as buying a house, getting married, and starting a family.
Wow.
I feel like I need a nap after just saying that out loud. It's huge.
It is a massive construction. But look closely at what happened in that final addition, that last clause, such as buying a house, getting married, and starting a family.
It feels like it just gives examples for the previous part.
It does, but it's a critical shift. We've moved from the abstract to the concrete.
What do you mean by that?
In level 9, where the sentence just said, and major life events, we had to guess what those were. The source calls this speculating.
Or conjecture, or his other phrase, a shot in the dark.
Exactly. We were in the dark. We didn't know which events he was planning for. Now, in level 10, we are out of the dark. We have facts. We have a concrete, specific list of examples.
Buying a house, getting married, starting a family.
These are not vague ideas. These are expensive, tangible, life-altering realities that this man is actively planning for.
The source uses a great idiom here. He says the man is covering his bases.
Yes, and that's a baseball metaphor, right? It means you're protecting all vulnerable points. You are thinking about every possible scenario so that you don't get caught by surprise. He's not leaving anything to chance.
And isn't it interesting how it ends? The whole sentence, this massive journey, it ends on such a human note.
What do you mean?
We started with a man and a bank account. It was cold, impersonal, transactional.
Just business.
Just business. And we end with starting a family, with human connection.
That's a beautiful observation. The sentence itself has a narrative arc. It starts with the mechanism, the money, but it ends with the meaning. It ends with the reason why the money matters in the first place.
So let's just take a step back and look at this whole thing. We went from a man opens a bank account, 6 words, 3 seconds, to I don't even know how many words that is. It's a paragraph disguised as a single sentence.
It's almost certainly the longest sentence that most language learners will have ever attempted to speak fluently and in a single breath. And that brings us right back to the very beginning, to the physical challenge.
The gym.
The gym. The source asserts very strongly that when you try to say this level 10 sentence, you should feel discomfort. It should feel hard. Your lungs should be burning a little by the end.
And that's a good thing, that feeling of failure.
It's essential. It's the whole no pain, no gain philosophy. The source is very clear on this. Without discomforts, there is no improvement. There is no advancement.
He calls it the unfortunate reality.
Yes. The unfortunate reality is that if you are not willing to be uncomfortable, if you're not willing to sound a little bit clumsy and foolish while you practice, you simply will not progress.
It's just like in the gym. When you're lifting a really heavy weight and your arm starts to shake on that last repetition.
That shake is the signal. That is the muscle being pushed past its limit, breaking down so that it can rebuild itself stronger.
So when you are speaking and you're stumbling over while also setting aside, or you run out of breath before you can say starting a family.
That is your brain trying to wire new neural pathways. That is the feeling of growth. It's your brain trying to myelinate that connection so that the next time you try, the signal travels just a little bit faster, a little bit smoother.
It reframes the feeling of failure as the feeling of progress.
Exactly.
It's so interesting where this idea came from. He mentions it briefly in the video. He says he was lying in bed, eyes closed, just about to fall asleep, and the whole concept for this lesson just popped into his head.
Isn't that often how the best teaching methods appear? When the brain is relaxed and making subconscious connections. But the key is that the execution, the actual practice, requires the opposite. It requires intense focus, what he calls deep work.
Right. He specifically says these lessons are not for casual viewing while you wash the dishes or fold the laundry.
Yeah. He says you need to set aside 1 to 2 hours for a session.
1 to 2 hours. That's a serious commitment.
It's a serious commitment to deliberate practice. You pause the video, you repeat the sentence, you struggle, you fail, you try again. You rewind. You do it 10, 20 times. It's the difference between watching someone lift weights on YouTube and actually going to the gym and doing the reps yourself.
That distinction is so important. We live in an age where we consume so much passive content. We watch videos, we listen to podcasts, but how often do we actually do the reps?
Almost never, because the reps are boring and they are hard and they are uncomfortable. But that is where the skill is actually built.
So what does this all mean for our listener who's stuck with us through all 10 levels? We've walked through the architecture of this super sentence. We've seen the vocabulary, precarious, stability, funds, milestones. We've seen the structure grow from a simple stick figure to a complex machine. What's the big takeaway?
I think the synthesis here, the main point, is all about capacity. It's about stretching your mind's ability to hold and organize complex thoughts in a second language.
Like stretching a balloon.
That's a good way to put it. When you start, you can only hold a small idea. A man opens a bank account. That's your mental limit. By the end of this exercise, you are holding a complex web of time, purpose, method, simultaneity, and contingency, all in one thought.
You're holding a whole life plan in your head.
You are. And by training yourself to speak that entire sentence fluently, you are literally rewiring your brain. You're building the neural architecture to process English at a much higher level of complexity. You are building the capacity to be fluent, not just in short, choppy bursts, but in a continuous flow.
It's incredibly empowering. It's scary, for sure, but it's empowering.
It is. And it raises a really, really provocative final thought for me.
Oh, what's that?
The source focuses on how this sentence describes a certain kind of responsible lifestyle. And that's true. But I'm thinking about the deeper relationship between language and thought.
Okay.
It's something often discussed in linguistics, sometimes called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, the idea that the language you speak affects how you think.
Right.
So my question is this. Does being able to speak in longer, more grammatically complex sentences actually allow you to think more complex thoughts?
Whoa, that's a big question. So you're saying if my ability in a language is limited to simple sentences, like I want food, I go home, I'm actually limited to thinking only simple thoughts in that language?
Perhaps. Or at least your ability to express and explore nuance in those thoughts is severely limited. By mastering a super sentence like this one, you might not just be improving your speaking muscles. You might actually be upgrading your thinking software.
You're giving yourself the grammatical tools to articulate and therefore maybe to even understand a more complex and interconnected reality.
Exactly. This man in the sentence isn't just financially secure. He's thoughtful. He's prepared. He's a complex planner. You can't fully embody that kind of complex character if your own language ability is stuck back at level 1.
That is a fascinating way to look at it. It's not just about sounding better, it's about thinking better. It's cognitive expansion.
That's the idea.
Well, listener, I think that is your challenge for the week. Embrace the wobble, embrace the discomfort. Try to build your own super sentences about your own life, your own plans. It might feel precarious at first, but now you know that's just the feeling of your stability growing.
Keep pushing, keep speaking, and remember the mantra, no pain, no gain.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.